You're going to make me cry. Oh, my goodness. Look at us. Wow. So many memories. It's just grand to see all of you. And I love the song, Linda and choir. Yeah, we are all of those things. And all of us are a gift to the world. And so what I've done today, people said, gosh, I'm so glad you're talking. Well, I don't know if I really have a talk, but of course I always talk. But this is, no matter my age, it doesn't seem to get over that. But as everybody is, we're excited just to have this going on. And the DVD, well, you can excuse the dancing. I must have been really excited then, too. Oh, geez. Yeah, it all started in Paradise. And that's the result. Now, some of you, see, this is my 40th year in ministry. And that's actually, I should have done my math. My husband and I started in Atascadero in 1975. We came to Paradise in 1978. That's when the call came. And so we had already been doing ministry, although I wasn't licensed, but I ran the church in Atascadero. I mean, why wouldn't I? I run everything, don't I? And that's because I was married to a man who had faith in me. He supported me 100%. This isn't in my notes, darn it. Yeah. You know, there's so much talk nowadays about men not supporting women and how maybe abused we've been, neglected for our talents and whatnot, but this man was ahead of his time. I think every woman in this church who had a class from him or who knew him felt his support and his love. And I know those of you who were at Cal Park, although he had retired, he came to be with us in 1990 and assisted me in the continued growth. And then when we moved to the pavilion, he didn't want to speak anymore. He was 80 years old. And then the next year he was 81, and he died in February of 2001. But if you remember him when we moved to the pavilion, of course he did it here, but we couldn't see it like we did at the pavilion, but he walked back and forth on the platform in the back, overseeing all of us surrounded in spirit. He was the most wonderful religious science practitioner I've ever known. He refused to believe in appearances, therefore appearances moved for him and for a lot of us. And I wasn't going to do this because I knew I'd cry, but it's okay. I needed to do this, and it's just how I'm feeling. So, anyway, we started in Paradise, 1978, and then as you've all seen the video, so it was really a nice chronology of what went on, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank the Paradise Church and its board and members of that church for supporting us, and especially me, because when we went there, we were supposed to candidate as a couple. Well, when we got there, the board president told me that, told us that the church just wanted a man minister, a male, and that I could run the thrift store.
Look who's standing now.
Well, you know how that went over. I said, "Excuse me?" I don't think so. I came here to minister, and minister I did. And so that was 1978, and in June of that year, we moved there in March, and in June of that year, I started a book club in Chico. I'll show them. So that's how it really all began, was with that little book club. Val Cooper, Ed Davis, Joan Davis, Wilma Bush. There were about 11 of us. Sherry Ospa, Maxine Bigler. They supported me in this, and then of course they wanted a service. They had been driving up to Paradise, and of course at that time it was a gas crunch, and so they said, "You come down here and there's only one, wasting gas." Oh, good religious science principles. So anyway, that's what we did, and in June of I guess that was June of 1979, we rented the Paradise, or the Chico Women's Club, for $50 a month. Yeah, $50 a month. Can you believe that? Well, we could hardly believe it, but we did it. And so we were off and running, and then RSI, Religious Science International, required 80 members to sign the charter so that we could become an official church. And at the time, we had about 50 people coming. But somehow, we managed to get 84 signatures on that, that charter. I think my mother was on there, maybe my brother and my we may have cheated a little bit, I think. But I knew most everybody on there. Well, we had 80 good ones anyway. So, and then you saw the charter presentation, and you saw precious Dr. Longy. Jess Longy was the minister of, Southern California. Where is that? Dr. Longy. Not Pasadena, but one of those towns down there. And he built $1 million church, and then he retired. They came to Paradise, and he would speak on occasion, and then I would sit at his knee and chat with him because he was so learned. I mean, he just spewed religious science. And it was the most magical time to just be with him and to hear how he practiced principle. And I'm telling you, it made me grow. And of course, my teacher was Dr. Earl Barnum from Canoga Park, California. And his teacher was Laura Holman, who was a student of Ernest Holmes. So I'm a third generation from Ernest Holmes as a student. And so the rest of you who took classes from me, you're fourth generation, which is woohoo. It's all good. And so we're on our way, and as I said, we're off and running. And so in September of this year, Reverend Kathy chose the book No Mud, No Lotus by Thich Nhat Hanh for our Sunday lessons, and it's been a really wonderful year to have all of the books along with the Sunday talks. And if you haven't been here for a while, you might want to come and try us out, because they're really right on. But these lessons were so important because the subtitle became really the topic for each of the speakers, and the subtitle is The Art of Transforming Suffering. Now, the Buddha, as you know, wrote that the one of the Noble Truths is there is suffering. And early on, I thought, and I'm sure a lot of you thought, that science of mind wanted us to ignore suffering, that wasn't a part of the teaching, that we are whole, complete, healthy, and perfect right here and right now, and which is the truth of us. It's the truth of our spiritual being. But our lives get messy, don't they? Anybody ever been in a mess? Yeah, there's 3 of us. I've got to have a drink of water. Hang on. So, this is what the Buddha wrote. If we can recognize suffering, and if we embrace it and look deeply into its roots, then we'll be able to let go of the habits that feed it, and at the same time, find a way to happiness. So suffering has its beneficial aspects. It can be an excellent teacher. That's the end of the quote. So I especially love John Boyle's talk this month, or in September. It was titled, Let's Get Dirty. And of course, what he was emphasizing is the importance of recognizing when we are having an emotional or a mental upset of some sort, or a physical pain. We need to get down into the mud of the subconscious mind and start digging around in the dirt of ideas that tend to limit, bind us, or keep us from expressing what we are in truth. So I have been so grateful for the teachers that I've had in the past, because they weren't about, as Jim Lockhart, I don't know how many of you know him, but he's a minister, was in Maine and Florida, Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, and now retired. He's a citizen of the world. He's living in France. He's living the life, I'm telling you, he and his wife. But he's writing about something called spiritual bypass. And what spiritual bypassing means is that we ignore our emotional state. We ignore the things that we're demonstrating that we don't want to experience in our lives. So it's bypassing that call to the subjective to look deeply at the roots of what's causing these experiences in our lives. So I love the word spiritual bypass. Remember that. Don't do it. No, don't do it. It's okay to suffer. Everybody take a deep breath. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Suffer? You know, there's an archaic root word of the word suffer. You know what it means? To change. When we're suffering, it's a call to get down into that, the crummy stuff, those ideas that lead us astray, that take us away from our truth of who we are. And then bring them up, look at them, and see them for what they are. See the truth of what that is. they always bring forth appearances of some sort, but when you look at the truth behind whatever you're demonstrating, then appearances change. Truly. I've experienced it over and over and over again in my life. So I thank Dr. Earl Barnum for introducing me to what he called prayer therapy back in the day. And then when I came here, I changed it and called it creative self-awareness. So it didn't have anything to do with therapy, because people seem to have a thing about therapy. Be really quiet about that word. But we got down in the mud. How many of you had creative self-awareness classes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, a few of us. We had more in classes than that. But anyway, in addition to the creative self-awareness classes, Mac and I always had at least 3 of the accredited classes going. Science of Mind 1, 2, and 3. And then it was called 100, 200, 300. And then they've added all kinds of other classes. And those are the things that can lead you into becoming a licensed practitioner or taking the ministerial course. I want all of you to be sure to go in the fellowship hall. There's a legacy wall of pictures, and it shows a lot of the practitioners. It shows all of us. I mean, yeah, you'll find your picture in there probably if you were around here at all. And at one time, if my memory serves me well, we had 15 licensed practitioners at one time. We also had the workshops and retreats focused on the inner growth and awareness, really getting down into the mud and digging around and finding what those false beliefs and concepts were so that we could change them. You saw a few of the workshops that we had, but as I sat down this week and walked down memory lane, it was, how many of you remember Camp La-Di-Da? Camp Latiez. Yeah, that was up by Manton. Oh my goodness. Well, we were young and we had just a great time, but we always had wonderful workshops where people had aha moments, where there was awakening, where there was something that they discovered that they'd been thinking about, or something they'd been living out that just absolutely limited them in so many ways. And then they changed. There was transformation. It was so much fun. We had other retreats up near Gray Eagle. We had workshops at Laxon Auditorium. There was one especially memorable was Robert Mueller. He was Assistant Secretary General to the United Nations, and he talked to us about peace. He met with the professors over at the university almost all day, one day. And it was just a wonderful time for us to be able to offer this to our community. And then, oh, I've got to take a breath. There were 500 people at Laxon that day. Deepak Chopra, Bernie Siegel, spoke at the Enloe Center. We had full houses who listened to those great speakers and told us about their work and what we could do to uncover our natural being. But a favorite one for me was at the Cal Park Pavilion, and it was Coleman Barks who brought Rumi. Remember that, with the cello and the flute, and oh my gosh, we were just transformed. That place was full. I think there were 400 people there that night. And it just, it was one of the most sacred times I think I could ever remember, all of us being together. Mr. Barks brought so much wisdom and love that we weren't really wallowing in the mud much. We were sparkling with a lot of light. So other workshops that brought us together to dig into that subjective mind of ours were the breakout workshops. Anybody remember those? Oh my goodness, I beat more pillows than I ever wanted to. That was with Ron Louette, who was a psychologist. I did 9 months with him of group therapy in overcoming parental conditioning, which was a great help to me. And then we had on-course. Remember on-course, off-course? The inner child workshops, that was another really big breakthrough workshop by David Smith, and it helped so many people be in touch with their suffering and then come out on the other side of that. We also had prosperity workshops, financial freedom, relationship seminars, the co-creation processes that brought our new ministers here a couple years ago, and visioning retreats all played a part in the unfoldment of our center here. So I'm telling you, these didn't happen by myself. Kathy's acknowledged the people who put this thing together. Wait till you see what they've done in social hall and out in the backyard. It's amazing. But what I know about that is the synergy of change that it takes to have gotten us to this 35th celebration. The word synergy comes from a root word meaning working together. A definition is working together for a combined effect that is greater than the sum of individual effects. So it's a working together to bring about something that is greater than all of us. And that's what I see as past, present, and our future, is that this working together will continue this center to do its work that we've done in the past and is doing right now. So, there are so many people who were instrumental in the forming of this. And some of them are no longer with us due to death or change of mind or change of location. But the adage, people come together for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, seems to fit. Not everybody comes to stay, but we come to get what we need. And those of us who have stayed have something to help others who come forward now. So, I tried to make a list of names, gave that up, because I knew I'd probably forget someone, and I didn't want to do that. So the church staff, over the years, I couldn't have done anything without them doing that. Our secretaries, sound and video, the coordinators, Brad Burks, Alice Diltz as pianist, Minda Furnish, Byron Thomas, our beloved choir director, the bigger than life himself. And when he passed, of course, then Larry Sill stepped in, and then when Larry left, we have Linda. And yeah. And Cara as pianist. They've all brought beautiful music to us. We've always had really good music. There are many people who served on the Board of Trustees, now called the Stewardship Council. If you served on the board of any board, would you please stand? Let's recognize you. Thank you for your service. I've trained so many practitioners, as I already said, and some of those practitioners went on to study for the ministry. And at one time, there were 8 staff ministers. Christine was the assistant, and Jill Lacefield was assistant after Christine left. We saw that on the video. So would you stand if you've been a licensed minister, assistant, staff? And I looked for my class records, but realized I left them here, and of course they're gone now. But how many of you have taken a class, any class, doesn't matter what it was, with me or any of the other teachers? Just, yeah, stand up. Okie dokie. Good for you. That's amazing. That's about half of us. So, well, now, Kathy, you have your work to do. The other half have to take their classes too. So, I also thought this week of the ushers, the greeters, the video team, audio, nursery, cosmic kids teachers, teen group, social hours, kitchen workers, bookstore helpers, setup and cleanup committees, decorating, maintenance, yard, and membership. I mean, it's just the number of people that have helped to bring us to this point in life, it's just incredible. I don't know how I'm doing on my time, but am I over time? Am I? Okay. All right. Well, the rest of it is done. So, hang on. I have 2 more things to do. You saw in the video that when we purchased this church, we had $11,000 in the savings. We raised $44,000 in 4 weeks. We had a board with plaques on them for everybody who donated to that. And I found some of the plaques, and so I want to present them to the people who are here. There's only 3 of them, but this one is for Liz and Jim Botil. Liz George. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Connie Sunnison, Asquith. And Michael Benson. There you go. Oh. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to do is honor the charter members. If I can find where they are here. Whoop. The missing leaf. Okay, here they are. As I call your name, would you please come to the platform? Sherry Ospa, Michael Benson, Minda Bolton, someone may not be here, Jim Botil and Elizabeth George, Teresa Evans, I believe, is in the hospital, Christine Peterson. Okay. Here's 4, and I was a charter member. I signed the charter. So here we are. We're the reason that this church is here. Woo-hoo! Thank you for your service. Now, I just have, well, I have two more things. Quick. I wanted to thank Michael Benson, Reverend Michael Benson, for bringing these two churches back together, Greater Chico and Chico New Thought. You did another one. You did two. And then, of course, we can't leave out the present director, minister, Reverend Kathy Fernandez.
It was wonderful. Sorry it took so long.
No, it's...
No, you stay.
Oh.
I'll grab that before I leave.
Okay.
Before Carolyn steps down.
Oh.
The gallery that we have in there doesn't have the 535 plus photos in this book. Thank you, Maggie Brett Terrain, who's the one who gathered all the pictures, scanned them, had this produced. And I'm trying to get the microphone. So I know you're trying to clean up. But we felt like having the memories on your coffee table was one way to recognize our founder,
Yeah.
so this is for you.
Oh, gosh. Thank you. I was here yesterday, and I took the one from there, so I'll bring it back.
Okay. You can give me that one back and keep the one you have.
Oh, okay. All righty. Thank you. Solution for every problem. Okay, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Oh, this is so great. Oh.
You made a difference.
Yeah, I did.